Hi, I'm Ollie, and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, I'm going to take you through my bookshelves. So, I did say in a video I did the other day, I think it was the video on the pulp books I'm going to be reading in the start of 2022. I did a bit of a rearrangement of my bookshelves the other day, so I took all the books I've already read off the shelves behind me here in my study, and put them in the attic and brought down the books from the attic, or some of the books from the attic, not all of them by any means, that I haven't yet read, so that I know that in here I've got books that are fully in scope of the 100 book challenge, and I can just grab something when I feel like reading it. So in the spirit of kind of preparation for 2022, I know lots of people are doing, videos about books they might read next year, and I've been really enjoying Michael K. Vaughan's The Books That Time Forgot series as well. So I thought I'd take you through all of the unread books that I've currently got around me, in order to show you the kind of the kind of stuff I've bought over the years that I haven't got to, which has now necessitated my 100 book challenge. But before I do that, there were 3 books I wanted to show you. So the first one is this one, which is a mystery book. So I bought this from my local library in December 2018, I think, so just in the run up to Christmas, as a mystery wrapped book. And I still haven't opened it, quite deliberately. So it's a paperback. It is, I reckon, probably 400 pages. And yeah, apart from that, I don't know anything about it. So I'm going to hazard a guess that it's probably a reasonably recent release, say from the last 10 years or so. But I don't know. I don't know if it's crime. I don't know if it's romance. I don't know if it's horror. I think it's probably unlikely to be horror, just because there's not that many horror books about. But yes, so I've managed to resist opening it, and I was thinking about if I should open it or not. And I don't think I should open it, but because I quite like the fact I haven't opened it. But what I was thinking is, if I ever get to 1,000 subscribers, which, to be honest with you, I'm on 400 on now. I think it's pretty unlikely I'll ever actually get to 1,000. If I ever get to 1,000 subscribers, I will open this book and we can all see what it is. But until then, it will remain a glorious mystery. The other thing I wanted to show you is, I've talked a couple of times on the channel about the fact I used to write, but I've never really talked about what I wrote. So I thought I'd show you. So when I was going through all my books, I found copies of a couple of my books. These are the only ones that are available in paperback. The rest of them are just Kindle books. So this is One Night, which is the second novel I wrote, which is a kind of romantic thriller about a criminal on the run who meets a kind of unhappy young woman, and they fall in love over the course of one night. So it's deliberately very cheesy, but kind of fast-paced and quite fun. People seem to like it anyway, even though I think it's littered with grammatical and typographical errors. And then the other one is Un Chat Nommé Espoir, which I may or may not have pronounced correctly. So this is the French translation of my my book, A Cat Called Hope. So I wrote 5 Cat Called Hope short stories, which were far and away the most popular things I wrote. And the first 3 were translated into French by someone I know. So this is the collected edition of the first 3 stories, which go together as a kind of complete story, a little mini trilogy. So yeah, that's quite fun as well. Right, okay, so in this video I'm going to show you crime. In the next video, actually I'll do crime and pulp in this video. In the next video I will do horror, and then in the final video I will do that kind of thing, which will be a mix of general fiction, like sci-fi, fantasy and thrillers, and a little bit of non-fiction. Right, so crime I think is definitely the biggest pile, so let's go. Right, so first off the bat, Evan Hunter. So Evan Hunter is my favourite author, so also known as Ed McBain, and he went under other pseudonyms as well. So I finished this year a read through of his 55 book 87th Precinct series, which is fantastic. So a series of mystery novels which he started in the 50s and finished in the early 2000s. This is his most famous novel as Evan Hunter, The Blackboard Jungle, which obviously was very famously filmed, which I haven't read, or indeed haven't read any of these. So yeah, that's The Blackboard Jungle. Next up by him as Ed McBain, we've got Alice in Jeopardy, which was the first book in what was going to be a series, but he died sadly before writing any more of them. So I don't really know anything about this, but yeah, looking forward to reading that one as well. I've then got a few, or 3 older standalone books by him. And I think these are mostly things that were published in kind of fairly early on in his career in the 50s and 60s and then republished when he got more famous. So we've got Big Man, which is about a mobster, I think. Vanishing Ladies, which is a detective novel, kind of hard-boiled detective novel, I think. And The Sentries, which I think is a bit more of a thriller, which looks pretty cool and a bit thicker than the other ones as well. Then moving on, so as I said, I've read his 87th Precinct books, all of those. He also, his other big series that he wrote, and I think there's about 12 books in this series, is the Matthew Hope series, which is about a lawyer who lives in Florida who's kind of an amateur sleuth as well. So Goldilocks, the first book, I actually have read, but I've kept it with the other ones. I've read the second one as well, Rumpelstiltskin, but I haven't got that one on in paperback. I've only got it on Kindle. So these then are not I haven't got all of them. I need to pick up some more of these once I'm off my ban. But we've got Beauty and the Beast, Snow White and Rose Red. And unlike the 87th Precinct books, which are very much, you know, police procedurals, in fact, you know, some people credit them as really inventing the police procedural genre. These are much more in the kind of amateur detective line, but very entertaining. Puss in Boots. There Was a Little Girl. You'll notice they all take the kind of fairy tale nursery rhyme titles. Gladly the Cross-Eyed Bear. That's a really awful cover, I think. Truly terrible. And then finally, The Last Best Hope. And this one I'm interested to read because this is a crossover between the two series. So Steve Carella, who's the main detective in the 87th Precinct novels, turns up in this one. And indeed, in a couple of the later 87th Precinct books, which are obviously set chronologically after this one, there are scenes where Carella and Matthew Hope, the lawyer, talk over the phone. Okay, right, we're nearly done with the book bounds. So here we've got another one. So this he wrote under the pseudonym John Abbott, and it's a thriller, a kind of Middle Eastern thriller. Scimitar, I didn't say the title. Then I've got this, which is a collection of novellas that he edited, and it's got one in here which is an 87th Precinct story. So I've read that one. So the 87th Precinct series, there were 55 novels, but then there were also 2 short stories and this novella. So I've read the novella, which is about a taxi driver. But this has also got stories in by Sharon McCrum, who I haven't heard of, Stephen King, John Farris, Lawrence Block, Walter Mosley, Jeffrey Deaver, Joyce Carol Oates, Anne Perry and Donald E. Westlake. So a pretty impressive cast of writers there, and it's a bit of a tome, as you can see. So yeah, quite looking forward to reading the rest of that. I may read them one at a time as it's novellas. We've also got, so this is another book published as Evan Hunter. So this is kind of a courtroom drama, or you know, kind of courtroom mystery type of thing, I think. Privileged Conversation. And then finally, I have read this one, but I thought I'd show it to you because it's really cool. So as I said, there were 2 87th Precinct short stories, one of which is only available in this edition of the TV guide from January, I can't remember what it was, early 90s, or maybe late 90s. So yeah, so I had to buy at significant expense, well the postage was expensive anyway, this old copy of TV Guide from the States in order to, let's see if I can find the story, which is on page 32. which was quite fun. It was a bit of a throwaway little short story, but it was quite entertaining. And this was, he did this short story to tie in with, they did 3 TV movie adaptations of the 87th Precinct books, which apparently are dreadful. I haven't seen them, but they're supposed to be really awful. So yeah, that was quite fun. And if anyone needs to know, burning need to know what was on TV in the States in, I can't see what year it was, 1997. So January the 11th to the 17th, 1997. Don't know if it says somewhere what region this was from. I've got a feeling it was like Tampa or somewhere like that, but it doesn't actually say. But anyway, yes. And as these things like this always had in those days, it's got a advert for a CDs by mail subscription service on the back. So yeah, that's all the McBains. So moving on to other crime stuff then. So I've got Deep Water by Patricia Highsmith. So I really like the Highsmith I've read. I've read The Talented Mr. Ripley and one other one, which the name escapes me now. But yeah, I really like her, and I've got a load of her stuff on my Kindle as well, and including Deep Water. But when I saw this lovely old vintage paperback edition, I had to grab it, so I've got that one. The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, which I started reading and couldn't get into a while ago, so I will give that another try at some point. Again, I've got this on my Kindle as well as in paperback. It's a bit of a theme. The Chalk Man by C.J. Tudor, which is supposed to be very good. So it was, I think, a debut novel and got very good blurbs, including one from Stephen King, who does like to liberally dish out blurbs. But yeah, that's supposed to be quite a good one. The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, which, guess what, I've also got on my Kindle. So I should explain both the Highsmith and this one. I think there was like a daily deal where you could get like 5 of the author's books for 99p, and I just grabbed all of them. Quite often, I really enjoy the convenience of reading on a Kindle, so quite often if a book is available cheap on a Kindle, even if I've already got it, I'll pick it up if it's only 99p. So yeah, this is supposed to be good anyway. And I've had this for 3 or 4 years, I think, and still not got around to reading it. Yeah. And then we've got this, The Prime Suspect Cases by Linda LaPlante. So I don't know if people are familiar with the Prime Suspect TV show, which was on in the 90s, which I thought was excellent, with Helen Mirren as D.I. Tennyson. So really good, kind of quite gritty for its day, serial killer mysteries. So this is 3 of the novels that Linda LaPlante, who wrote the TV series, also wrote, novelizations for it, and some follow-on ones as well that I think weren't ever filmed. So yeah, looking forward to reading that. LaPlante is a writer who I've read a fair bit of over the years, and I think she's really good. She's definitely in that kind of, not easy reading's the wrong word, but very readable kind of crime stuff. Not spectacular, but solid and really entertaining. She also wrote a lot of TV shows, including obviously Prime Suspect. She wrote the TV show for Widows, which was filmed a couple of years ago by, oh God, I've forgotten his name. Can't remember the director's name, but with a screenplay by Gillian Flynn, who wrote Gone Girl. Yeah, I've not seen the movie yet. I think it had kind of mixed reviews, but yeah, so Linda LaPlante, I always find quite a reliable author. Okay, let's move on. I was intending to sort of sort these into some sort of order, but didn't actually get around to doing that. So, right, Slaughter, Karen Slaughter's Fallen. So this is one of the Will Trent novels, which I've read a few of her. I've read one of the recent Will Trents and a few of the older Grant County novels, and I think she's a really gripping writer. So quite looking forward to digging into that one. Got Shame the Devil by George Pelecanos, who was recommended to me by a friend years and years ago. I've never read any of his books, so I think this is an ex-library one. Yeah. So yeah, I don't really know much about him, but again, this is one that's been on my shelves for years, so we'll need to get to that one at some point. Now I've got a bunch of vintage Agatha Christie's, so I picked these all up from a book sale in a doctor's surgery about 2 or 3 years ago. So quite a nice selection here. And Agatha Christie is just always good value, isn't she? Just easy reading, entertaining, good plots. and they're just, you know, nice vintage fun. So I've got Murder in the Muse, Poirot's Early Cases, which I think is short stories, Cards on the Table, which is another Poirot one, Sad Cypress, which has got a really glorious cover there. I love that cover. That's another Poirot. The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding, which I suppose I should probably be reading at this time of year. I think this is short stories again, and I think it's Poirot again. 3-Act Tragedy, Elephants Can Remember, and this, which is my favourite cover, I think, Dead Man's Folly. So yeah, some nice Christies to dip into there, always good for kind of reading on a winter day. Right, this is a book I know nothing about at all, Deadfall by Desmond Corey. So I got this I bought a job lot on eBay of 87th Precinct novels to kind of fill the gaps I had. This was a couple of years ago. And this was included randomly, so there were like 10 87th Precinct novels and this in the bundle. I know nothing about it at all, never heard of the film. It was filmed with Michael Caine, never heard of the film, don't know anything about the book, but it looks like it could be okay. Again, it's a sort of crime novel about a jewel thief, I think. Right, okay, next up. Okay, we've got The Sinner by Petra Hammersfar. So I bought this because I watched the Netflix adaptation of it with Bill Pullman, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. So this is the original German novel, albeit obviously translated into English. But yeah, I haven't got around to reading it, but it looks good. LA Confidential by James Ellroy. So I've got a few Ellroy books on my Kindle, but I think the only thing I've read by him was The Black Dahlia, which I did really enjoy, but I think you have to be in the right mood for James Ellroy, because if you're feeling a bit down when you start reading him, you'll probably slit your wrist by the time you finish. So yeah, I will read that at some point. And then, as referenced in my the video I did the other day about my countdown challenge, I've got the second two of the Millennium books. So The Girl Who Played with Fire and The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest by Stieg Larsson. Again, I have got these on my Kindle as well because I got them cheap on Kindle. But yeah, intending to read these at some point because I really enjoyed The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Right, we're getting there with the crimes. Okay, this is glorious. So I got this lovely vintage paperback of this Georges Simenon novel. The Snow Was Black. So Simenon obviously most famous for his Maigret books, of which I've got about 7 or 8 on my Kindle to read. But yeah, I don't know much about this one, but it looks great. It's a fantastic cover and it's got a lovely red edging to it as well. So yeah, looking forward to that. The Godfather by Mario Puzo. Guess what? I've got this on my Kindle as well. But when I saw this nice old, battered old paperback edition going cheap, I couldn't resist it. So yeah, we'll see what I make of that when I finally get around to it. I think this is one I will read on Kindle because the paperback is falling apart. Original Sin by P.D. James. So I've not read much of P.D. James's crime fiction, I don't think, but the books I have read of hers, including Children of Men, which is just phenomenal, I really liked. So yeah, I don't know much about this one. It's quite a thick one though for a detective novel, nearly 600 pages. I read A Judgment in Stone by her a couple of years ago, and that was very good as a crime novel. So yeah, we'll see what I make of this one, but it's definitely one to wait until, I might leave this one until after I finish the 100 book challenge, given how thick it is. And then I've got 4 of Robert B. Parker's Spencer novels. So again, Spencer is not a detective I've read at all, I don't believe. But these all looked quite entertaining. I mean, obviously he's got a good rep. So I'll see what I make of these when I get to them. So I've got Backstory, School Days, Small Vices, and Hush Money. I need to get round to taking the cover stickers off those at some point, or they'll leave a mark. Right, let's keep going. Okay, this is another random standalone that I picked up. So Tell No Lies by Greg Hurwitz. So I've read 2 or 3 of his Orphan X books, which I thought were really entertaining kind of thrillers. This looks a bit more crimey, but yeah, we'll get to that one at some point. Unknown Man number 89 by Elmore Leonard. So this was one I rebought about 5 years ago. I read this as a teenager. It was the first Elmore Leonard novel I read, and I instantly fell in love with his prose. So yeah, looking forward to rereading this one at some point. The messy stacks I'm making here are collapsing. This could become a bit of a theme in these videos. Right, Unbalanced Axe by Jeff Rains. So this is there's a funny story. Well, you can judge whether it's funny or not. An interesting story, possibly, associated with this book. So I read this book, again, when I was in my teens, when it first came out. The UK edition, this is the American edition, the UK edition has a fantastic cover with like a drawing of, or a picture of a kind of close-up of someone's face with a scalpel right near their eyeball. Anyway, a few years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, I think I was walking my son to school and we were chatting about what would make cool stories. And he said, I think a really cool story would be like a master criminal frees a load of serial killers from prison and holds a city to ransom. And I said, I've read a book like that, but I can't remember what it's called. And then about a week later, I went on a massive second-hand bookshops like kind of splurge basically, and traipsed all around Brighton, which is the city near where we live. And in the basement of a bookshop, in a dusty corner, I found this book, and this is the book. So yeah, a weird coincidence that I remembered the book but couldn't remember what it was called, and then found it and remembered it was the same thing. But yeah, anyway, I remember that being quite fun. Next up, we've got a couple of Cornell Woolrich books. So Cornell Woolrich was a kind of noir writer from the 30s, just fantastic, kind of suspense novels. This one, I think, from what I remember, is my favourite. So I read these in these editions as a teenager. My public library where I lived had them. So Deadline at Dawn and The Black Curtain. I think these Ballantine editions are just absolutely glorious, really lovely. Right, next up then we've got Hero and the Terror by Michael Blodgett, which was filmed with Chuck Norris, which is, if that's not a recommendation for a book, I don't know what is. So his book Captain Blood, which is referenced on the front here, is on my TBR for this month. This is supposed to be a really kind of gritty cop against a serial killer type novel, so I shall read that at some point. I've managed to lose a couple of the books I need to talk about, so bear with me. So I've got these 3 cosy mysteries by Charlene Harris, who wrote the Suki Stackhouse vampire books. So these all look quite fun, and they were cheap in a charity shop a while ago, and they're just such cute little editions that I couldn't resist them. So whether they're any good or not remains to be seen. So I've got Shakespeare's Landlord, Shakespeare's Trollop, and A Secret Rage. Okay, we are very nearly there with the crime. So this is a book I bought years ago. I think I bought it before my son was born. In fact, I'm sure I bought it before my son was born. So I probably bought it 15 years ago, and I've never got around to reading it. So Noir by Olivier Poirots. I guess that's how you pronounce his surname. So a French crime novel translated into English, but lovely. I think just the presentation of it's beautiful. There's another one I've had for a while, and again a beautiful looking book. 6-4 by Hideo Yokoyama. So a Japanese crime novel. Again, like the Simonon, got lovely coloured edging to the pages, which really looks something, I have to say. So yeah, I don't know much about this again, but it looks fantastic. And the Japanese crime novels I've read, most notably Out, which was absolutely fantastic. I've really enjoyed, so I'm looking forward to getting to that one at some point. And then we've got 2 by Camilla Lackberg, The Preacher and The Stonecutter. So I read the first book in this series. I can't remember what the series is referred to as, but The Ice Princess is the first book in the series, and I read that a few years ago. I think it was in 2018. well, I'd say in 2018 I did a year where I just read female authors, and in preparation for that I'd picked up a load of crime novels and things like that by female authors. So I read the first of those books in that splurge of reading. What am I even going on about? I've been talking too long. Yes, so I read the first one, quite enjoyed it. I've got these two to go next. Okay, so that's all the crimes. I will grab the pulps now, bear with me. So obviously I've done a separate video for the series, pulp series that I'm reading at the moment. But these are the other pulps that I've got on my shelves. So just a few to go through. So I've got a couple of old pulp detective novels that I picked up from a supermarket second-hand book sale. So Call Me Deadly by Hal Braham. I know nothing about this at all, but the cover's quite cool. And Bodies in Bedlam by Richard S. Prader, which is one of the, I can't remember what the character's called, Shell Scott. So there were loads of these, I think. I've never read any of them, but yeah, looking forward to reading that at some point. And then these three are the 4th, 5th and 6th books in the, what's the character called? Joe Riker series by Nelson DeMille, who is kind of quite a well-known thriller writer, but early on in his career wrote a load of these kind of trashy crime novels, and they're set in New York, and they're about this detective Joe Riker who will literally do anything to close a case and is incredibly brutal. And the books are really grubby and horrible, but quite entertaining. So we've got Night of the Phoenix, The Cannibal, and The Death Squad. So the first three I've read and enjoyed. So we'll get to those at some point as well. Right, so that was all the crime books. I need to figure out somehow how to get these onto the shelves, which have got other books on, and then I will then record the video for the next lot of books, which will be horror. So yeah, that's Crime and Pulp. Coming tomorrow, horror. Look out for it. As always, hope you're safe and well, and I will speak to you again soon. Cheerio.